Everyone, welcome back. We are once again designing this entire landing page from scratch, and the reason we're creating a complete modern new landing page, especially this one, is because it's a little bit different than most of the stuff you usually see. Very hexagon themed, very specific vibe that it carries, honeycomb inspired, and it's definitely something that makes you think outside of your usual UI design box. I promise this is going to be a different vibe. Before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, and also I will see you inside of Figma. Plus, on Figma, create a new design file and get started. By the way, if you haven't installed Figma yet from figma.com/downloads, big mistake. Download Figma now. Alright, now we're going to create a simple frame. Just go to the bottom. MacBook Pro 14 is the frame that we're creating. The first thing that we're going to do, let's start by making the header. Obviously, is type out the name of our brand. And for the brand's name, this font that we're using is something that's super duper fun, something we haven't used ever on this channel, but I was really excited to use it. This is called Chi Variable, and it's a font that we've just added over here. I feel like this is just the perfect font to have for this incredible feel of a website. So we're going to type out the name of our brand all in caps, which is Honey Hive, and we're obviously separating the two words that go into making this, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that really quickly. The font that we're using today is Chi Variable, and we're going to increase the size of the actual text itself. So we'll just keep it at 48. Alright, the next thing that I need to point out here is the color palette that we're using today. So we're using a pure black along with a really nice sunny shade of yellow, which is FFCE09 in hex code. Let's just separate the first word and add a fill to this. FFCE09. Yep, it is 09. Let's just add that. And with that, I feel like we just added too many F's. Why did I even do that? We now have this really nice looking UI that we just have the logo ready with us. Alright, the next thing we obviously have to do at the top before we get into the interesting part of the hero section is the logo or the navigation icon, and this is just really simple to do. You just go out down to the bottom, search for Iconify, the simplest, easiest plugin to get menu bars, icons, all of those fancy things, and we're going to search for menu, and let's see what we have. Honestly, immediately we have a bunch of really nice options. Let's just get one that we like. It doesn't even matter if you do 2-row menu bars or 3-row menu bars. Doesn't even make a difference at all. Like, it's just aesthetic choice, and you can choose whatever you like. Alright, at this point we're going to make this smaller, obviously. Align it perfectly in the middle, and now we have this really nice looking top header with logo and everything else ready. And now we're making the hero section. The first thing that we need to do with the hero section today is just order the way this whole grid is done. So firstly, this is a hero section grid that I've never ever done in my life before, other than this website, and which is why this is going to be so fun, because the true level of contrast between images and colors and getting the whole shape to work is not something people already come to the earth knowing. So this is going to be a fun build. Let's get started. So half of the people that are just getting started with Figma, just getting started with this entire thing, aren't entirely sure of how to make hexagons, and I want to address that issue early on in the beginning as well. So we're just going to go down to the bottom at shape tools, and we're going to get for ourselves a polygon. You can even get a star, and that's also a way to do things, but you're going to go down to the bottom and you're going to increase the count of the edges that you're working with, and you're going to increase this up to 6. And once you've done that, you're going to make sure your width and height, whatever they may be, are entirely equal. Let's just make them equal, and now we're going to make them smaller. Let's just add this over here, and this is just the perfect beginning point for our shape. Let's just press shift to make sure they scale up and down equally, and then you're going to choose one specific size, which for us is going to be 262. Let's just lock these firstly, which will make sure the width and height remain in the exact same aspect ratio, and we want the ratio to be exactly equal, which is 1:1 right now, and we're going to change them to be 262, and that's just going to be the width and height that we're using for a MacBook Pro 14. And now we're just going to copy and paste these a bunch of times. Don't even worry about what you're filling them with right now. It just doesn't matter. Let's just get the third one, align it perfectly, copy and paste it, get this guy over here again, And now we're just going to select the bunch of them, align them equally, and now we have 4 of these ready. And then we're going to just copy and paste them once again, add them over here directly. And now I'm going to get one other shape, copy and paste it, add it right over here. Alright, and now we're just going to select these, copy and paste them, bring them down here again, shift them up again. And the last thing that we're obviously going to do is get the 3 of these, which are actually going to go out of the screen. So you are not going to see the entirety of the shape, which is also something we have to add over here. So we're just going to get any 3 of these from any section, copy and paste them, bring them down as a group, just align them perfectly. And we're just going to shift them and just align them perfectly. Make sure the spacing and everything is just perfect in exactly the same width and height that we want them to be in. So we're just going to press shift, select a bunch of these at the same time, align them to the perfect center, and then we're just going to select this whole hive structure that we've made, maybe make it smaller, or you can just shift them above if you want to. Ideally what we're going for is just to have them be as space taking as we want, and then add a little bit of a border radius, which honestly makes things much easier to see on the eyes. It makes things much cuter if we put it that way. So we're just going to do a really small amount of a border radius, which for us is going to be 4 in this case, which I'm fine with. Alright, and now I feel like this is where things actually start to get interesting. So the spacing, I feel like the spacing for these is firstly a little too big or small, and sometimes you just happen to realize that. One of the simplest ways to fix the whole issue of things being spaced too closely, you can obviously take one of these guys and then align them so that there is a proper amount of spacing between them, or, and this is where the hack kicks in, you can add a stroke that is inside and then change the color to white, and that's just going to increase the amount of spacing between each of these. And this is my favorite hack to use of all time, because honestly sometimes you just can't shift all of these shapes around. Auto layout does not work for hexagons, so this is like the perfect hack to increase or decrease the amount of spacing that you have in between them, and this is just such a perfect thing to do. And I'm just going to increase the spacing over here. You can also change the inside to outside and reduce the spacing if there's a lot of close amount of spacing. Alright, and now that we have a perfectly spaced apart structure, now we can finally think about what we're going to put inside that structure. So the first thing we're going to do is obviously an image, and now I just wanted to go over the entire process of how do you get the correct images for all of these circumstances. So go down to the bottom, get the Unsplash plugin, search for it if you don't have it yet, and this is where we're going to browse for our own images. And the reason I'm doing this instead of giving you the image files is because I got a question recently asking how do I get my image assets, and I so wanted to be a little bit more transparent in how I source my image assets, how I go about thinking of them, how even if I get them from a platform like Unsplash, am I selecting the right image so that it works with the UI, which is extremely useful as a hack if you are currently in the process of making UI UX designs or your own portfolio. So getting the right image is always really important, and this is my effort to be a little more transparent at how that happens. So we're just going to search for honey or beehive or whatever it is that you want to search for, and then we're going to just get started with something really simple. So I feel like this is the perfect place to get started with that aesthetic. We're just going to add an image over here, and if you're not happy with the positioning of the actual image, if you're happy with the image but not happy with the positioning, going to change the image fill from fill to a crop, and now we can either move this image around or scale this up and down, and it doesn't exactly matter which image you're using as long as it actually looks good. Now another technique that I want to talk about here is when you have a bunch of these images, it's almost always wise not to put all of them around each other, just sticking next to each other. The maximum you're going to do is 1 or 2 edges of a single image are going to touch each other. But I'm going to show you the hack on how do we make sure where the color goes, how do we make sure where the image goes, because this is a prominent question many people have. So the way we're going about structuring these images is we're making a flower. The flower for this central hexagon is going to have one single colored bit in the middle, and then all of the other ones are going to be images, and then we're going to do that on this side as well. This is the center of this flower, and then we're going to have all of these other petals with actual images inside of them, and then every other remaining space is also filled with a color. So that's just the quickest way I could explain it. And now that we know what we're doing, let's also change the color of these guys, because this is going to be in the center. and then this is also going to be in the deep center for us. Alright, and now that we have all of our images positionings with us, now we're going to actually place our images wherever they need to be. And I feel like any bright image that would look good is the solution basically, as long as the theme and the color schemes that you have in mind work with the stuff that you're designing, you're not going to be in a lot of trouble that way. And that's just the simplest way of getting your correct images for your UI designs, because of course there's a bunch of images you can use, but correct images is a little bit of a thing that always designers need to take care of. Alright, and now we're just going to think about a lot of images that are surrounding this flower in itself. So let's just get a bunch of images that would work here. Let's just search for something that looks nice. I feel like we could use this image on this corner just because it's a different bright color. Let's change this to crop, add this to the direct center, and now we're just going to get another whole bunch of images to go with that. So what images do we use? I feel like this is a good one. Let's add these over here, and whenever you find that something is not working, just make sure to change this, scale this guy up. Now we're just going to add a bunch of images, whichever we feel like work. I don't think this is the most perfect color for this shade for some reason. It just doesn't look right to the eye, and it's really important that you take care of what seems right, because sometimes when you don't do that, you're in more trouble than you'd think you are. So I feel like this image is much better because we're trying to stick with the colors and themes that we have started with. So let's just change this to crop. Let's just have this image be a tiny bit bigger, just so it just fits everything. And is this less distracting? Is this more distracting? I feel like the previous version was a little bit better. This looks much better, to be honest. Alright, I feel like this is good enough. The next thing that we need to do is make sure this is also completely in the center, or as much of the center as it can be in. Let's zoom this up. Align this here perfectly. The next thing we're going to do is add a bunch of images, and I'm going to talk about the playlist that we have on this channel after this design today, because I feel like that's also something we need to get into eventually, especially for this channel. What do we do next? I feel like there's a really huge amount of image choices that we could choose from, and honestly it does take a while to decide the perfect images. And at the end of the day, you have to most importantly think about what works well with the current scheme of colors that you're working with. So this is a really white and yellow themed UI, and you just want to make sure every step you take, every image you put is really on theme with that. So is this a good image? And that's always the constant question. Is the image that you're choosing actually a good image? Let's just get another image to go with that, and I feel like with that we are pretty much done. We haven't really done dark images a lot, so these are good additions to whatever we're doing over here. Check it out, this is almost done for us. And now I'm just going to add our plain colors over here. Let's just add simple colors, nothing complicated at all. I feel like we still need to add a couple of images, so I'm just going to get those from the bottom. Let's search for honey bee, and hopefully that gives us a couple of good options to go off of. This is a good one. Doesn't necessarily have to be perfect, as long as there is something to show. This is good. Then we could have something from over here. This actually looks nice. And then I certainly hope I can find one more good image. In fact, you know what? The colors would be fine for this one. And I also want to add over here, I feel like this image would look much better. Let's just get this guy over here, align it perfectly, and then get this image over here. This looks so much better. And now we're going to change this to yellow. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to increase the size of the frame, because obviously now we are done with the hero section. This has been the hero section of this entire UI, and might I say, this actually looks quite incredible. And now we're making the about section. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to design the next section, which is the tagline and main area description section for this whole entire UI, which is experience the golden goodness of honey. And then now we're just going to get into that. So the next thing we're going to do is create a frame. Just make sure it takes up the whole entire width of our screen, just entirely the whole width. Shift it above by a couple of pixels, add a fill, change this color to black. No, I feel like we have to change this to yellow. We're only sticking with 2 main colors, by the way, for this UI, because the more colors there are, sometimes it just adds to the commotion. By the way, if you want to find for your own designs the 50 best color palettes going around in the community of UI UX design professionals right now in 2025, go to Srivastava.com and just sign up. It's completely for free. You get 50 different of the best color packs, each having 5 different colors, and these are more than just ordinary color palettes, because they take the modern trends and the trends of the upcoming future and they bring you those color palettes. You also have 5 Easter eggs of color palettes, which you'll find out when you join us at veerasrivastava.com and get your color palettes today. With that said, let's get into the next section, which is the description section. This is going to be experience the golden goodness of honey. Let's just get that done now. So we're going to do a different font for this one, which is much more readable than Chi, and this is going to be Fig Tree. So Chi variable was the font that we were using over here, and we want something much more readable than that, especially for larger headings, for things that are actually going to take up space. This font is called Fig Tree. Let's get started. So we're going to type out experience the golden goodness of honey. I do want to type this out quickly because, well, typing speeds suck. Experience the golden of... Alright, we're done. And I just want to point out over here, this as a whole isn't a really good font for heading. So if I just increase the size of this guy to 96, this wouldn't be a good title font, just on account of how hard it is for everyone to read what it's saying. Like, this whole word experience feels like an actual physical drag. This isn't the perfect one for what we're doing. Wow, you have a bunch of thicknesses with Chi, don't you? I feel like I never saw these. This is so awesome. I feel like this is amazing. Peanut pickles, schmer, shishi. I haven't ever seen a font do this for the font weights, which is honestly amazing. With that aside, we're going to change this to Fig Tree, because it's obviously the font for us. We're going to change the thickness to black because, of course, we want the font to be thick. We're going to reduce the line height as well for this one, and that's pretty much it. I feel like we also need to change the color of this font in itself to black. It just has to be as thick as we possibly can make it. And the next thing we're going to do, obviously, just reduce the line height a little bit. The next thing we're going to do, obviously, over here is capitalize the whole entire line, because that was also adding to the title and demanding appeal of the entire UI. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is just make sure it's taking up the exact amount of space that it needs to take, and then align it perfectly in the center. I feel like we need to offset it a little bit because of the whole left side reading effect that we're going for over here. The next thing that we're doing is adding a little bit of a description for the stuff that we are making. This description is just plain text. I highly encourage you to just pause the video over here and copy this entire thing, type it out yourself. If I type it out, everyone who's watching the stream will now run away, which is why I'm just going to generate another text box. Just have anything over here, right click, paste here and match. Wow, I just pasted something weird. I need to copy the text, which I didn't for some reason, which is fun. So we're just going to go back over here, right click, paste it over here and match our text. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change this font to Open Sans. It is honestly tricky to juggle 3 fonts, which is why we're only using the font Chi variable as a logo font. So this is just our logo, and it's not communicating anything directly, especially because even if we wanted to involve this as a title or a description font, it is far too removed from the general fonts that are more readable that it would be nearly impossible for us to just comprehend this if it were a random font, which is why we're doing Chi variable and Open Sans as a combination for this current UI. We're going to reduce the width to semi-bold, reduce the size as well. Let's bring this down to 24, align it perfectly. And now we're going to change this entire thing to maybe a browner shade, because just because it looks a little bit better. just to make it tiny bit better, not even a lot of it. And we're going to change this to bold. And the next thing we're going to do is, obviously, we're going to add a couple of buttons, because who doesn't need call to action buttons? Every good brand does. The next thing we're going to do is add a bunch of buttons, which is join the hive and learn more for this one. So I'm going to show you right off the bat the simplest way to make buttons. Let's change this to semi-bold, because I'm unnerved by the way it currently looks. We're going to bring this down, and we're going to change the text to say join the hive and learn more. Let's just change the text to say join the hive. And now I'm going to show you the simplest way to make a button. Take notes. Right click, frame selection, add an auto layout, add a padding on the left and right, add a padding on the top and bottom, and also add a stroke in case that's the kind of button that you're making. If you don't want to do a button like that, you're going to add a simple fill, and I feel like that's what I'm going to do right now. Add a little bit of a border radius. We're going to stick with the number 13, the not so lucky, but in this case quite useful number 13. The next thing we're doing is obviously making this button a little bit thicker in terms of text, just because we want to ensure that this is a little bit more important than the description text. So we just want to always communicate that visually every single chance we get. Next thing we're going to do is remove the fill, add a stroke, increase the thickness of the stroke, and the point here is make sure the thickness of the text almost matches, if not exactly, the thickness of the stroke of the button. And then we're going to change this to be brown, because we can't change it to be the white that we're using. I feel like this is almost it for this section. The next thing that we're going to design is this next section solves the age-old query of why choose us. Going to be a split screen, which is doing two different sides, and it's just the most simple usable content box ever. With that said, let's just get into it. So we're just going to go over here down to the bottom, create a new frame. This frame is going to take almost one whole entire screen, and then we're going to create an entire frame that is half of the width of the frame that we were working with. And I feel like we can't really tell what half width is until we know what a full width is. I feel like I lost the previous frame, which is a shame. And we're going to get this out into our MacBook Pro 14 directly, change the color just so we are able to see what we're working with, because honestly this isn't really clear. We're going to add it over to the left, just increase the entire spacing, and also make sure to count the amount of space that this width is taking, which is 1512 right now. And now the first hack, the simplest hack you can use to figure out what amount of space this is going to take width wise, is to just divide 1512 by 2, which is going to be 756 pixels. We're going to change the width to say 756. Wow, everyone saw me do math live on stream. This is awesome. And now we're going to change this image to be, change this section to be an actual image, which we're going to get from the Unsplash plugin yet again. You can also use the amazing plugin Lumi. I feel like I'm going to do that now because we have seen how we get images from Unsplash, and it would be nice to just touch over all of the different aspects of getting your images generated. So I do want to go with Lumi now. You're just going to search for the extension of Lumi. And now we're going to get the extension of Lumi once again. We're going to search for honey, anything of those sorts. And Lumi is, honestly, I love it as a platform because it provides a level of diversity in terms of new images of stock that we haven't really seen before, which is awesome. Let's get a couple of images. Honestly, all of this honeybee business freaks me out a little bit. I am not sure how comfortable I would be around honeybees, but I feel like we're just committed. Honey, can we just get the exact image that we were using just for this cake, just for this UI? Because as deep as you go with the current UI that you're working with, I feel like this is the one that we were using, and I'm just committed to it, and I'm just going to stick with it. If you are not comfortable with the way the image is positioned, which personally I'm not either, we're going to go over to the bottom, change this from fill to crop, and now we're going to shift this image around to whatever we want it to be. Let's just position it perfectly, and I feel like we haven't yet done that, so we're just going to have to shift this image around a little bit. All right, the next, I feel like we just didn't shift it horizontally as much as we should have. Is this horizontal? Is this vertical? I'm not sure even at this point. Sam says, hello, welcome back to the stream. We're designing a real world website today using a lot of real world concepts we haven't previously touched on the channel. Thank you for joining. The next thing we're doing is obviously adding a title in the same exact font that we were working with previously, and I feel like we have already sorted out the 50-50 screen percentage issue, which is why we can change the color back to white. Now we're going to add a title and a description. And so let's just copy the title and description from the top, because these are the exact same fonts that we were working with before. Let's change this to black. I feel like we have to go with black for this one. I was honestly a little bit towards the brown, but if black is what we're working with, black is what we're working with. Let's get rid of this guy. We don't need him. And now we're going to reduce the font size a little bit. Let's just bring this down to 64. That seems to be good enough. Increase the line height a little bit. Change the font to say, why choose us? Which reminds me, we should increase the height a little bit. Let's change this to say, why choose us. I'm not entirely sure why. I feel like if we had to take credit, we'd say great web design, but that unfortunately isn't the option we're going to add over here. We're going to add 3 different real world bullet points to sort of highlight what we're working with, but in classic UI designer fashion, we need to change the way they're working and the way they're looking. So we're just going to add a little bit of a width over here, add a fill, and obviously this fill has to be anything other than white. Reduce the opacity and then just take whatever color we get. So we're using FFCC09, the exact yellow that we've been working with, at 20% opacity. And this opacity business is actually quite cool, because if we wanted to change this into a dark mode of a website, we could just do that from the background and this would still almost work. By the way, do you guys want to see the dark mode of this entire website? Because today we're designing this website, but I was wondering if we should do the dark mode on stream as well. Just type D in the chat and we'll do dark mode. With that said, I'm waiting for the dark modes in the chat. With that said, wow, I just repeated myself twice. I'm going to add a title and a description, both of which are going to be in our font Open Sans, which is commonly used along with other weird text choices like Fig Tree, which is the font that we're using right now. Fun. We're going to change this to say natural ingredients. Let's just change this to say natural ingredients. Ingredients. Wow, I cannot type anything at all. And now we're going to reduce this to be inter, and obviously reduce the font size as well. Wow, we weren't using inter, were we? No, we were using Open Sans. I've just dropped the ball entirely now. To the point where I have confusion using the words wow and now. This is where we're currently at, internet. What do you think? Alright, we're going to change this to be 22. Obviously add a border radius, because we seem to be really committed to that border radius plan of ours. And also we're going to add a little bit of a description. So, I can't type this description, I'm not going to. I encourage you to pause the video, type these out yourself. I've done it once, you won't see me doing it again. We're just going to style it though. That's just something we're doing. Let's just copy this text, go over to the back, and now once again, just get this guy over here, copy and paste it once again, bring this down, right click, paste it here, and wow, I did not copy the text. This is awesome. I feel like everything that could go wrong on stream is now going wrong, which is awesome. I hope everyone liked that. We're going to reduce this to be semi-bold in thickness. By the way, does anyone want to see dark mode for this UI? I would love to design dark mode as a whole without preparation. Look at me, I'm so brave. And we also need to reduce the size for this, which is going to be 14. If people actually said dark mode in the right quantities, I would have to, and I haven't prepared for it, which is freaking me out internally. So on the one side, I do want to see audience interaction, but on the other, I am a little bit but again, dark mode is half of my job, so I shouldn't be freaking out. Wow, this is amazing. And now we're just going to select this whole entire frame, copy and paste it once again, which reminds us this isn't as dark as we'd possibly want it, so we can just make it up to 42, which honestly would be much better looking at the way things are. Let's just copy this up here once again. The brighter the yellow is, the more I like it, which makes me think, should I just go entirely yellow? That is up for debate, definitely. Should I go entirely yellow? Should I not? This is something we're going to have to experiment with, honestly. Let's now copy and paste, change the text that we were working with, copy it over here, right click, paste it here and match our styles. Once again, we're going to go to the back, copy all of this text, and paste it back here again. The next thing we're going to do is change the text to say community support. Obviously, once again, we're going to paste our text here, match the styles. Let's just get this done as well. And now comes the big question, which I've been pondering with a lot internally. Should we make this brighter? Which is a genuine question. I feel like 53 looks even better. You know what? I'm committed. I'm going to say let's go with a little bit of a brighter shade 53 because text still remains readable, and honestly it would be fun to have something new going on over here. Now we're going, wow, did I just copy and paste the whole thing again? I'm awesome. Now we're going to press Alt and see the level of difference. So this is 95 pixels. I'm sort of hoping for 95 on this end as well, but if we can't have that, let's just shift it by a couple of pixels until we get 93 on this side and 93 on this side as well, which is amazing for us. This next section is about our purpose. The next thing we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is this section. This is a direct design based copy of the previous section but minus the buttons, so we're just going to do that, and I feel like this is going to take much lesser time than any other sections that we've ever done. Let's just paste it here once again, bring this down here. This looks so vibrant and so bright, it honestly looks amazing, but we're going to change this down to black, remove the sunny disposition, get rid of these buttons entirely, not the need of the R, and now we're going to change the text. Look at us, we made the whole bright section disappointing. This is hilarious. Let's change this to just say what we wanted to say, which is our purpose. I highly encourage you to type this text out yourself. I've done it once. I swear to God I'm not doing it again, because we have seen the pain that I cause to humanity itself when I try to type these long things out on stream, and I'm not committed to doing that, you know. I'm just not doing that. That's not happening today. Not today. And now we're doing the features section. Why choose us? This is the next section we're designing. Awesome. Let's get the title in, and then we're going to try to sort out the weird layouts that we're working with today. It's going to be incredible. Let's drag this out, and now we're going to get the title from over here. Again, I want to talk about how important it is to just make sure the exact same heading size remains across all sections other than the title one. So for most title sections, you have a certain size that you're expecting the fonts to be, hero sections basically, and for all of the other sections, as a consistency rule, it's a nice idea to have the exact same size. So I feel like this is the hero section, a bright continuation of the same, and then for all other sections, it would be a good idea to have all secondary headings be of the same size, 72. Wow, is this 96? I feel like 96 looks good over here, and we could go with 72 in this case because that is also another pattern, but I feel like it's just too little for this case. You know what? I'm committed. Let's just work with 96. So the whole idea is to have similar font sizes repeating for headings or the same exact element in a UI, which is something that we're always wanting to follow by either choosing 96 or 72, which are both sizes we've worked with. 96 over here, 72 over here, 96 over here, and 96 over here again. We've worked with both of those before. Now we're going to type out why choose us, because I'm not entirely sure either. Why would anyone choose us? This is such a weird question to ask. Wow, I can't type again. Why? Look at me, I'm just making a fool of myself. Why choose us? Question mark. I have no idea. Now we're going to add an image, add a little bit of a border radius, go over here to the bottom, add a rectangle, just make sure everything takes up entirely the amount of space that we needed to take. Reduce the width on all the sides, make it aligned perfectly. Add a little bit of a border radius, change this image, and of course we're going to get another image from Lumi because Unsplash is something we just exhausted. Let's search for honey once again and pray to God we get something good, because if I am getting these images, I'm not committing. I'm sorry. Wow, this is all too fairyland for me. I don't think this is going to be the thing that we go with this time. 3D is something I want to explore. This looks so beautiful. I think we're going to use this one next. This is honestly amazing. It was awesome. All right, now we're searching for the next image. I feel like these are just really bright ones. Maybe we could work with one of these. This is freaking me out. This isn't. So we are committed to the bright flower bee image. Deal with it, world. I'm not dealing with it, but you have to, because what other choice do we have? And now we're just going to copy these 3 boxes and we're going to try to use auto layout to, without doing much else, just switch their direction and change this to this, which is going to be fun. So just watch me do it live in minutes. Somebody put a timer over me, please. Which reminds me, this color is not something I'm digging now. I was before, but I feel like 32 is the max highest number that I'll go with, and then I'll just say no, this is not happening. My struggles with color is something that we should make into a documentary and people would want to watch it. With that said, we've pressed shift, selected all of these, frame, wow, not group, right click, press shift, frame selection, copy and paste this guy once again, and now we're going to get this over here to the bottom. This looks adorable, check it out. We're going to right click, bring this, wow, what did I just do? Bring it to the front, and this would look awesome even if it was just placed like this, not going to lie, but we're not going to do that today. Let's go over to the auto layout. Where did it go? Add an auto layout if you haven't yet. I feel like we just forgot to add the auto layout, which was fine for that case because the spacing was okay. But in this case, we do need an auto layout, so don't you dare forget it. Now we're going to change this to be horizontally aligned, and also we're going to change the width to be hug contents, and then have it take up the exact amount of width that we've been working with. I feel like this is something that we could reduce now. The title size honestly would be fine if reduced. So we're just going to reduce all of these down to 20. Let's change this to be 20 and also bring this up a little bit. Shift this inside. You know what? Why did I bring it up? I feel like bringing it up was fine. We're going to have 40 of X and 60 on the Y. Just perfect numbers for us. 60 on the Y, not 63. And then we're going to just make sure they're perfectly aligned over here. Again, once again, 40 and 60 are the numbers that we're working with, which is awesome. Align them in 2 different lines, and ladies and gentlemen, this looks so pretty. Can we just say this looks pretty? Can we just say that in the chat? Because I think this looks insane. We can have a fight over this, but I do think this looks insane. The contrast of the purple on top of the yellow is just bouncing for me. This is insane. Awesome. Perfect. You can change the text if you want to. I'm not doing it. Go to ChatGPT, say this is a Bee website, see what why choose us results it spits up. This is the final section that calls the user to take action on our site. So we have to make sure it's extra perfect. The next thing we're going to do, obviously, is design another section with a grid for all of the images. This looks like the sweetest section in the whole world. And yes, I'm going to use the cute bee image we saw before because I'm just a fan of those things. Now, we're going to get a grid for images first, and that's just my primary commitment. Let's go ahead and make a grid now. So we're just going to go down here, go to our frame, increase the height of the frame, and obviously we're going to create a couple of small little frames for us. Wow, this was weird. Let's create a frame. Increase this to 230, add a little bit of a border radius to, let's do 15, add a fill, change the color of the fill, and I feel like this was a little bit too small of a border radius because previously we were stopping it at 26 and I'm still committed to that number a little bit. So we're just going to go over here, copy and paste this a little bit and just perfectly align everything in the center. Oh no, I just completely control X'd that, which was not something we wanted to do. And now we're just going to press all of these, select them at once, press shift and select all of these at once, add an auto layout just to make sure everything is perfectly aligned, go to each individual element and then change the border radius to 26 because I feel like this is just such a cleaner approach. And now we're just going to bring this down over here. I do want to just get all of these images at once because I'm certainly hoping I get good image results. Let's go over to Lumi and get a couple of 3D images and illustrations of honey because I do want to see what it offers. Honestly, I do. Honey, and let's just find out if there's anything cute. I honestly love this one and I'm just getting it. I don't care if this is a weird 3D collage, but it is, and I'm the one who's making things here, so that's just the way things are going to be. Let's get a bunch of images and hope we get a couple of good images. I have no idea why we're putting random 3D images, but you can use a real image if you want to. I honestly think this looks incredible, so I'm just committed to the whole plan. honey pot. Can we do a pot of honey? I'm certainly hoping we can. Wow, this is good enough for us. This isn't good enough for us. I think we need a couple of more. No, we're getting teapots, no honey pots. Let's crop this image out. That would be fine. Oops, we can't shift it down. Let's just make sure it is aligned perfectly in the center. Good enough, good enough. And now the next thing we're doing is a title and a description and a call to action button. Let's get a title, let's get a description, and also a call to action button. Have we done why choose us twice? I might have. Wow, this is not good for us at all. This could be a different section. For example, our unique, which is honestly true, these are unique features to our brand. So our unique features, look at me fixing mistakes on stream. Our features is fine. All right, the next thing we're doing is adding this entirely beautiful section, indulge in nature, sweetest gift delivered to you. Let's do that. And I said before, we're committed to the whole, either the heading size is 96 or the heading size is 72, and so we're just going to go over that once again. Go back to the top, get our font size, copy and paste, bring this down here, and now we're just going to align it perfectly in the center. Get a little bit of text, just pause the video, type this out, and I'm just going to copy the text, bring it back here again, right click, paste it here and match our style, make this thinner. This looks good enough for me. This is fine. And now the next thing we're going to do is add a little bit of a description. Our honey is harvested with love and care, ensuring you receive the best nature has to offer. Let's just get a title from over here. I feel like this is going to be a fine use for us. Increase the font size, and I do this just to save time on getting a new text box and then doing all of the whole storyline thing. And we're just going to reduce the thickness down to a regular and also change the color to be brown, the exact shade of brown which we have been using, and you can use any shade of brown. I've changed in both of those UIs, but it's honestly okay with either. Doesn't really change. Line height has to be increased because obviously we are committed to the whole line height fiasco. Let's increase the line height some more. And now we're just going to align it perfectly in the center, reduce the line height once again. And now we're going to get another button from the top. I feel like we changed the name of this button and I didn't do it, so this is going to be learn more. Secondary buttons need a different name, by the way. Don't make the same exact mistakes that I'm making. With that said, has anyone seen the fact that when you make a button through the frame method, now whatever width your text holds, the frame sort of expands and contracts depending on it? How awesome is that? That's like the coolest thing auto layouts have given us ever. Amazing. Just so awesome. Let's get another button. What was I doing with that? Let's get another button once again. Copy and paste, bring it down, and the button is going to say, I wonder what the button is going to say. It is going to say shop now, because of course we want the users to shop, and of course we want that shopping to happen now. Let's reduce, you know what, let's just get rid of the stroke entirely, add a fill which is going to be yellow, and that's just going to be our button commitment for now. Look at me using the word button commitment in the sentence. 2 words. Look at me using the words button commitment in a sentence. And this is like the sweetest section ever, which is going to make sure it has a little bit of spacing from the top and bottom. Finally, the footer. And finally, my folks, ladies and gentlemen, let's add a little bit of a footer to the bottom. Alright, this is going to be the final thing we do today. Let's change the height to be 100 and then shift it above, obviously. Shift this guy above, add a fill because everyone needs a fill, bring it over here to the bottom, make sure your frame is set perfectly to work with the fill. This is going to be our footer and it's going to hold really simple information. Copyright Honey Hive 2025, you need to put that in, and then a couple of social media icons. So let's just get this over here, copy and paste, bring this down. Windows Point is going to open up this emoji box for you. If you're searching for this in Apple, just go to ASCII-texts.com, search for copyright and copy and paste it at the bottom. Honey Hive 2025 all rights reserved. The last time I wrote all rights reserved for a real site was for, in fact, my own site, which is now holding the 50 best color palettes in the world right now for UI UX designers, and it's also holding 5 Easter eggs of color palettes which you should not miss. They are awesome. Just go over to veerasrivastava.com, link in the description. I hope I certainly hope it's in the pinned comments, and then you're going to find all of those color palettes completely for free. So why are you missing out? Go there right now. It's limited edition. All right, we're going to make this bold, and then we're going to add a couple of social media icons. So let's just go down to the bottom and get a couple of icons. I'm going to go to Iconify as a plugin, and now we're going to search for YouTube. Let's also search for Instagram, because all good brands have their own social media these days, which is awesome. And also let's do X, because who doesn't like that? Let's do Twitter, because it's difficult to search for X as a name on this platform, Iconify, for now for some reason, which is weird. But you know what, I'm not going to question those things right now. This is a problem enough without those questions. Let's bring this down over here, back again, make it smaller, zoom in. Let's just bring this down over here and align it perfectly. Make sure the width and height and everything just looks visually equal. Doesn't need to match up, because sometimes the width is more than the height, and sometimes your logos are completely in square shapes like this one, which is why it makes sense to not always be obsessing over it. Let's get all of these, group them together, add an auto layout just so they're perfectly aligned, and make sure there's an equal amount of spacing on the left and on the right. Let's shift this over here.
The moment we've been waiting for.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, let's just close off everything else. All of that's noise now. Go to prototype sections and select the prototype of MacBook Pro 14, which is the device that we're working with. Choose MacBook Pro 16 if that's what you're working with. No judgment here. And now we're going to see the stuff that we've made. This is awesome. This is what we've made today, ladies and gentlemen. It looks incredible, feels incredible. This is the entire UI. The hero section is something really, really unconventional, something we haven't done before. The logo is amazing. You can just scroll down, and this is one of the brightest, most text-heavy sections we've ever done on this channel. How awesome is that? This next R feature section is amazing, because it captures raw beauty of an image, divides the page into two sections, gets your bullet points on the right side, and then this R purpose section adds a level of consistency, minimalism, and pure black and white monochrome feel that nothing else could, honestly. Why chooser section is my favorite now, because check out the purple and the yellow and the beautiful contrast they make. Like, this is incredible. This is awesome. Sign me up 1,000 times. The next section that I'm super duper happy with is this one. Check it out. This looks incredible. The image grid, the text that groups, the buttons, everything just fits so perfectly to bring you a really, really modern, really, really minimal, really, really pretty looking real world website. So just, if you like this video, make sure to subscribe. The bottom footer is also incredible. Whole site is incredible. I come here live every single day, 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time or 3:30 p.m. GMT. I will see you again tomorrow, same time, same place. But also, there's going to be a programming channel coming up related to this channel that is going to be my own, which I'm also really, really happy for you to see. So just subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.